My beloved brothers and sisters, life will always test us. There will be moments when everything seems to be falling apart. Our plans, our dreams, our strength. And in those moments, Shaitan whispers, "You are alone." But let me remind you of a powerful truth: the moment you truly rely on Allah, sincerely and wholeheartedly, everything begins to change. You see, we say, Tawakkul ala Allah. We place our trust in Allah. But many of us don't realize what that actually means. It's not just words. It's a complete surrender of your heart to the one who never fails. It's knowing that no matter how heavy your burden is, if you give it to Allah, He will carry it for you. When you stop relying on your limited power, and start relying on the unlimited power of your Maker, the impossible becomes possible. Doors open, hearts heal, peace returns, and your soul finds comfort in places where there used to be fear. So my brothers and sisters, today, we're going to talk about that transformational moment. The moment you truly rely on Allah, and how your entire life can change from there. Tawakkul, or reliance on Allah, is often misunderstood as doing nothing and waiting for miracles. But in reality, it is one of the greatest strengths a believer can have. It takes immense courage and trust to place your affairs in the hands of the unseen, knowing that whatever comes from Allah is better for you, even if you don't understand it right away. People often associate strength with taking control, making detailed plans, or fighting through problems on their own. But the truth is, real strength lies in surrendering your heart to the one who is in control of everything. It is not about being passive or careless. Tawakkul means you do your best, take every lawful step, and then leave the results to Allah with full faith that He will never wrong you. When a person puts their complete trust in Allah, they rise above fear and anxiety. They stop chasing after things that are not in their control and instead focus on what pleases their Creator. This doesn't make them weak. It makes them powerful. Because while others are relying on their wealth, connections, or intelligence, a believer relies on the source of all strength, Allah. He is the one who gives success, heals the broken, and opens doors that were locked shut. When you rely on Him, you are standing on unshakable ground. This reliance creates a deep sense of calm. The heart that trusts Allah does not panic when things go wrong. It does not break when people disappoint. It does not give up when faced with trials. Why? Because it knows that everything is in the hands of the Most Merciful. If something didn't happen the way you wanted, then it happened the way Allah wanted. And that is always better, even if it doesn't feel like it right away. This is not a theory. It is something countless believers have experienced when they truly let go and let Allah take over. Prophets, the most beloved to Allah, were the strongest in their tawakkul. When Prophet Ibrahim Noas was thrown into the fire, he said, Hasbunallahu wa ni'mal wakil. Allah is sufficient for us, and He is the best disposer of affairs. That wasn't weakness. That was strength. It was the kind of faith that made the fire cool and safe. When the Prophet Muhammad PBUH was in the cave with Abu Bakr and the enemies were right outside, he didn't panic. He said, "Don't be sad. Indeed, Allah is with us." That is strength. That is what real reliance on Allah looks like. So when you choose tawakkul, you're not giving up. You're actually rising above. You're saying, "I've done my part. Now I trust the King of Kings to do what's best for me." And that, my brothers and sisters, is the most powerful position you can be in. True reliance on Allah begins when you realize that you are not in control. As human beings, we naturally want to plan everything. We want certainty, clarity, and a sense of control over the outcomes in our lives. But life has a way of reminding us that we are not in charge. No matter how hard we try, things don't always go according to our plans. It's in those moments of confusion, pain, or helplessness that we are pushed to look up and say, "Ya Allah, I can't do this alone." That is where true reliance begins. Not when everything is going smoothly, but when everything feels like it's falling apart. When you lose control, you are not failing. You are actually being guided to turn back to the one who has always been in control. And that shift, from relying on yourself to relying on Allah, is one of the most powerful changes a person can experience. It brings a kind of peace that nothing else in the world can offer. You may still be in the same situation, but your heart is no longer anxious. You may not have all the answers, but you know that Allah does, and you trust that His plan is better than anything you could ever imagine. Letting go is not a weakness, it is the doorway to spiritual strength. It takes humility to say, "I don't know what's best for me, but Allah does." It takes faith to stop obsessing over results and to instead focus on effort and prayer. That's what tawakkul teaches us, that our role is to act with sincerity, and then leave the results to Allah. If something is meant for you, it will come. If something is not meant for you, no matter how hard you try, it won't stay. Once you understand this, you stop forcing things. You stop living in frustration. You stop breaking yourself over what you cannot control. The beauty of relying on Allah is that it frees you from the burden of outcomes. You don't need to stress over what if or what next. You just need to trust that your Rabb, your Lord, has already written what is best for you. Not based on what you want, but based on what your soul truly needs. And sometimes Allah removes things not to punish you, but to protect you. Sometimes He delays something not to deny you, but to strengthen you for something greater. So the moment you truly surrender your control and say, "Ya Allah, I leave it in your hands," you are no longer walking alone. You have placed your affairs in the hands of the most wise, the most loving, the most powerful. And even if you don't see it immediately, everything begins to shift. Not always on the outside, but definitely within your heart. That's when you realize that true strength doesn't come from holding on to control. It comes from letting go and trusting the one who controls it all. Allah's timing is always better than our planning, even when we don't understand it in the moment. As human beings, we are often impatient. We want things to happen quickly, according to our schedules and desires. When we make dua, we expect immediate results. When we strive for something, we want instant success. But life doesn't always unfold the way we imagine. There are delays, setbacks, unanswered prayers, and moments of confusion. It's in these moments that our faith is tested, and our trust in Allah's timing becomes most important. You see, we may plan something and feel certain that it's right for us. But Allah, in His infinite wisdom, sees what we do not see. He knows what is hidden from our hearts, and He knows the future we cannot imagine. Sometimes the delay in your life is actually a mercy. Perhaps what you're asking for right now would harm you if it came too soon. Perhaps Allah is preparing your heart, strengthening your soul, and guiding you through something better. Even if it's not what you asked for. That is the beauty of His timing. It is never early, never late, but always perfect. When you look back at your life, you will notice that many of the things you were once desperate for didn't come at the time you wanted. And yet, they arrived exactly when you needed them. And sometimes they never came at all, only for you to realize later that it was for your own good. Allah knows the unseen, and He protects us from what we cannot comprehend. That's why trusting His timing is an act of deep faith. It means you believe that the one who created you is also managing your life in the best possible way. This doesn't mean we stop planning. Islam encourages effort, strategy, and action. But what makes a believer different is that after planning and striving, they surrender the outcome to Allah. They understand that success isn't defined by how fast something happens, but by whether it comes at the right time. The time Allah chooses. And when something is delayed or taken away, it's not a punishment. It's a redirection, a protection, or a preparation for something greater. Remember, Prophet Yusuf Noah spent years in prison for a crime he didn't commit. Yet, it was in that prison that Allah was preparing him for leadership, wisdom, and honor. Imagine if he had been freed earlier. He may have never reached the position that Allah had planned for him. Likewise, your waiting period is not wasted time. It's a part of your journey, a step in your growth, and a sign that Allah is working on something special for you. So whenever you feel anxious about the future or disheartened by delays, remind yourself, Allah's timing is always better than your planning. What is written for you will come. Not a moment too soon, not a moment too late, but exactly when it's meant to. Reliance on Allah does not always change your circumstances, but it will surely change the state of your heart. One of the most beautiful signs of true tawakkul is that a person feels at peace even when the external chaos of life continues. You may still be facing the same hardship, still waiting for the same answer, still enduring the same silence from the world. But deep inside, something shifts. A calmness descends upon your heart, not because everything has improved, but because you've placed your trust in the one who controls everything. Many people think that once they rely on Allah, things will immediately become easier. But that's not always the case. Sometimes, Allah keeps the test going for a while longer, not to punish you, but to strengthen your patience, purify your heart, and draw you closer to Him. And in that process, your heart transforms. It becomes more focused on Allah, and less shaken by what's happening around you. That is the true power of relying on Him. It gives you inner peace. Even when the storm outside continues to rage, you begin to understand that peace does not come from the absence of problems. It comes from the presence of trust. When your heart finds contentment in Allah's plan, even if it's painful or unclear, That's when you've truly begun to rely on Him. You stop trying to figure out every outcome, stop fearing what tomorrow will bring, and stop depending on people to fix your situation. Instead, you hold firmly to the belief that whatever is happening is part of Allah's wisdom, and you are safe in His hands. This type of peace is rare, but it is priceless. It allows you to walk through difficulty with your head high, and your heart steady. It keeps you from falling into despair, because you know your Rabb is watching, listening, and planning something good for you. Even your tears become meaningful because you know they are not in vain. Allah sees them, and He is the one who will replace every hardship with ease when the time is right. When you truly rely on Allah, you stop being consumed by fear of the future. You understand that everything you lose, everything that doesn't go according to plan, is not the end of your story. Rather, it's part of a divine script, authored by the one who loves you more than anyone else ever could. You stop needing constant signs and proofs to feel reassured, because your heart has already found its peace in Him. So if your life hasn't changed yet, don't think your reliance on Allah has failed. Sometimes the change doesn't happen outside, it happens within. And that inner transformation, that calm heart and firm faith, is often the greatest blessing of all. Because, once your heart is content with Allah, nothing in this world can disturb your peace. That is the gift of Tawakkul. It doesn't always change your situation, but it always changes you. Letting go of outcomes is one of the clearest signs that you truly trust Allah. Many of us make the mistake of thinking that reliance on Allah means doing everything we can, and then anxiously waiting for a specific result. We attach our hearts to a certain outcome, a particular success, a specific solution, and when things don't turn out the way we hoped, we feel disappointed, confused, or even broken. But real tawakkul, true reliance on Allah, means surrendering the outcome, knowing that whatever Allah decides will always be better, even if it's not what you expected. When you let go of the outcome, you free yourself from unnecessary emotional pain. You still make effort, you still pray, you still strive with all sincerity, but your heart is not attached to how and when things will work out. Instead, your heart is attached to the one who controls the outcome. This shift changes everything. It brings contentment, no matter what the result is. Because you know that your effort was seen, your dua was heard, and your trust was placed in the most merciful. One of the biggest causes of anxiety is trying to control the uncontrollable. We try to manage the future, predict every twist in our path, and cling tightly to our preferred results. But the more we cling, the more we suffer. Allah wants us to do our part, and then release the grip, to hand it over to Him with full conviction that He knows best. That is not weakness. It's a powerful form of faith. Think about the example of Prophet Musa as. When he stood before the Red Sea with Pharaoh's army behind him, escape seemed impossible. But he didn't panic. He didn't ask how. He simply said, "Indeed my Lord is with me, and He will guide me." He didn't know the outcome. He just knew who was in charge of it. That is the heart of someone who lets go of the outcome and holds on to Allah. When you live like this, your life becomes lighter. You are no longer crushed by disappointments or shaken by delays. Even when things don't go as planned, you remain grounded, because your faith wasn't in the plan. It was in the planner. You can face uncertainty with grace, because you know that Allah is weaving your life in the best way, even when you can't see the full picture yet. Letting go of outcomes is not about giving up hope. It's about rising above attachment to a specific result. It's trusting that Allah's decision will always be more merciful, more wise, and more perfect than your own desires. And that kind of trust leads to a peace that no success or failure can touch. Because when your heart is no longer tied to the result, it becomes tied to the one who controls every result. And that is the strongest place a believer can be. Every test in life becomes easier when your heart is connected to the one who tests you. Trials are a part of our journey in this world. No one is exempt from them. Whether it's pain, loss, disappointment, or uncertainty, every soul will experience moments of difficulty. But what makes the difference is where the heart turns during these moments. If your heart is attached to people, outcomes, or material things, the pain will feel heavier, and the test will seem unbearable. But when your heart is attached to Allah, the most merciful, even the toughest trials become manageable, because you know that you are not facing them alone. Allah does not test without purpose. Every hardship carries a lesson, a purification, or a hidden blessing. When you trust that the one who is testing you is also the one who loves you most, the pain begins to feel different. You begin to see the trial not as a punishment, but as a tool for growth and closeness to your Creator. Your heart may still ache, but it won't break, because it's anchored in faith. Throughout the Quran, we see examples of people who were tested in the most severe ways, yet they remained steadfast because their hearts were with Allah. Prophet Ayub Noas lost everything. His health, his wealth, even his family, but he didn't complain. He turned to Allah with patience, and Allah rewarded him with more than he had lost. Prophet Yunus Zoas was trapped in the belly of the whale, in complete darkness, but his heart remained connected to Allah. He called out with sincerity, "There is no God but you. Indeed, I was among the wrongdoers." And Allah rescued him. These stories aren't just history. They are reminders that no matter how deep your trial is, the way out begins with turning your heart to Allah. Once you make that connection, the burden doesn't feel as heavy, because you're drawing your strength from the one who never runs out of mercy. The pain still exists, but so does the peace. You can cry and still feel calm. You can struggle and still feel hopeful. Because deep down, you trust that Allah sees your tears, hears your prayers, and will bring relief in the best time and the best way. This mindset changes how you respond to life. You stop asking, "Why me?" and start asking, "What is Allah teaching me?" You begin to view hardship as a bridge to something greater. You stop trying to escape your test, and start walking through it with faith, knowing that Allah is holding your hand every step of the way. So whatever test you are facing, whether it's in your health, your family, your finances, or your heart, remind yourself that Allah, who gave you this test, is the same Allah who will guide you through it. And once your heart is firmly connected to Him, no trial will ever be too much to bear. My beloved brothers and sisters, as we come to the end of this reminder, let us reflect deeply on the core message. The moment you truly rely on Allah, everything changes. Not necessarily the world around you, but the world within you. Your fears begin to fade, your doubts are replaced with faith, and your heart finds peace even when life remains uncertain. This is the power of Tawakkul. It doesn't remove the trials, but it gives you the strength to rise above them. We've learned that true strength lies not in control, but in surrender. That the deepest peace comes when you let go of outcomes and place your full trust in the wisdom of Allah. That His timing is perfect, even when it feels delayed. And most importantly, that you are never alone in your pain. The one who tests you is also the one who loves you, listens to you, and is closer to you than anyone else. So the next time you feel overwhelmed, when you're standing at a crossroads, when life feels heavy and confusing, pause and turn to Allah. Rely on Him not just with your words, but with your heart. Tell Him, "Ya Allah, I leave it to you. I trust you with my life, my future, my pain, and my dreams." And watch how everything begins to shift. Maybe not immediately on the outside, but surely within your soul. That moment of true reliance can be the beginning of a new chapter, a chapter filled with clarity, courage, and calmness that only Allah can give. May Allah grant us all hearts that trust Him completely, souls that surrender to His will, and lives filled with peace through Tawakkul. Ameen.